Meg taking to Instagram December 17th in tribute to the late director and his wife Michelle.
It was raining hard in Montecito when a sleek black car pulled up to those tall iron gates, the kind of storm that doesn't wash things away, it just presses the heavy gray sky right down on the earth. For the past 3 weeks, the world had been spinning out of control with headlines, flashing cameras, and talk shows replaying that haunting clip of an ambulance leaving the Brentwood driveway. But inside her quiet living room, Meg Ryan sat in absolute silence, completely shut off from the noise. No calls, no posts, nothing. A few paparazzi had spotted her walking her dog, face hidden behind big, dark sunglasses, but they had no clue what was really going on. They guessed heartbreak, guilt, sadness, but the truth was way more complicated. For nearly a decade, Meg had been carrying something inside her, a secret that had been weighing her down ever since the story first broke. And that secret was tied to Rob Reiner, the man she didn't just see as a legendary director, but his family. He had once told her something during a quiet, emotional moment on set, a truth so heavy she tried for years to push it out of her mind. But today, she couldn't hide from it anymore. Sitting in that tall velvet chair, the cameras dimmed low and soft.
Meg adding, "I have to believe that their story will not end with this impossible tragedy, that some good may come, some awareness raised. I don't know, but my guess is that they would want that to be hopeful and humane, to be something that brings us all to a greater understanding of one another and to some peace."
Stripping away all that Hollywood shine that once defined her image. Back in Rob's golden era, the late 80s, Meg was the symbol of charm and light, the face of romantic comedies, the woman who could make the whole world smile with one look. But now she looked different, like someone who'd seen the foundation of her entire world crack right before her eyes. She clutched a ceramic mug with both hands, not to drink, but just to feel its warmth, trying to steady herself, trying to quiet the trembling that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside her soul. She lifted her head slowly, her blue eyes sharp but shadowed by the deep red rings of too many sleepless nights. For once, she didn't even bother trying to smile. No charm, no sparkle, just raw truth staring straight into the lens. "I need to say this," she began, her voice low and rough, missing that soft tone millions once loved. "Because if I don't, if I keep pretending that picture-perfect Hollywood family still exists."
Meg and Rob worked together several times throughout their careers, including in 1989, when Rob directed Meg in When Harry Met Sally, and later on as co-stars in the 1993 romance Sleepless in Seattle. Rob Reiner was 78.
"Then I'm part of what happened to him. I'm part of the lie that broke him." Her chest rose sharply as she took in a shaky breath, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the quiet room. People thought they knew Rob Reiner. They saw the baseball cap, the big beard, that booming laugh that could fill an entire set with warmth. They saw The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, and all those classics that made the world feel cozy, safe, and full of heart. But what no one saw, what stayed hidden behind those closed doors, was the tension that quietly built over the years between Rob and Michelle. It was like an invisible pressure that filled the air, thick and hard to breathe through. Meg paused, eyes drifting toward the rain-streaked window, her gaze lost somewhere far back in time. "You have to understand," she whispered, her voice trembling but steady enough to carry. "Rob wasn't just a director to me. Rob and Michelle had welcomed her into their world."
The actress posting a black and white photo of the two dancing and smiling, writing, "Oh, how we will miss this man. Thank you, Rob and Michelle, for the way you believe in true love, in fairy tales, and in laughter."
Treating her like one of their own. To Meg, they were living proof that real love could survive, even in a business built on illusion and performance. But something shifted about 5 years ago. The vibe around them started to feel different. off. Meg could still remember one night crystal clear, a regular Tuesday dinner at their home. Nothing fancy, no red carpet, no cameras, just friends sharing a meal. But the moment she stepped through the door, she felt it. The air was thick, almost humming with tension, like the echo of an argument that had just happened. And this wasn't the usual kind of disagreement that couples bounce back from. No, this was quieter, heavier, like something had cracked deep beneath the surface. The whole room carried this strange, uneasy energy that made it hard to even breathe. Meg shifted in her seat as she spoke, setting her mug down with a soft clink that echoed across the quiet set. "Nick was there," she said carefully, her voice tightening. "And I want to say this the right way because I know he's been through serious trouble, and I know he's their son."
Meg Ryan is remembering her late friend and collaborator, Rob Reiner.
But the Nick I saw that night, he wasn't the same kid I watched grow up. Her eyes darkened as the memory flashed back. "There was something gone in him," she whispered. His eyes were blank, cold, like all the light inside had just faded. She paused, taking a shaky breath as her fingers trembled slightly. We were all sitting around the dinner table, pretending everything was fine. Rob had tried to break the tension with one of his classic dad jokes about the pasta, just something harmless to lighten the air. But Nick didn't laugh. Instead, his hand came down hard on the table. The plates rattled, the glasses tipped, and for a second, the whole room froze in shock. It wasn't the quiet of a family having a rough night. It was the silence of people who didn't know what might happen next. Meg's voice dropped low as she leaned forward, her hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles turned pale. "That moment still haunts me," she said quietly, her tone trembling but clear. "I looked at Michelle," she continued, her voice soft, almost breaking. "Michelle, who was always the strong one, the calm center of everything. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't tell him to stop. She just flinched." Meg swallowed hard before glancing down at her plate. "I'm sorry, Nick," she whispered, the memory rolling off her tongue like it still stung. The words hung heavy in the air.
Thank you for your faith in the best in people and for your profound love for our country.
Even now, years later, she could still feel the weight of them. Her eyes shimmered as she spoke, and her next words came out barely above a whisper. Then I looked at Rob, and what I saw in his eyes that night, I'll never forget it. She paused, lost in that memory. It wasn't anger, she cracked slightly. It was fear, real fear. Her hands tightened again, gripping as if to hold on to something solid. He looked right at me for just a second, and in that one glance, his eyes were begging me not to say a word, begging me to just keep pretending. She inhaled sharply, holding back emotion. "I sat there," Meg said quietly. "I ate the pasta, I sipped the wine, I smiled, and I kept the conversation going, while my heart was pounding like a trapped bird inside my chest." She took a slow breath, remembering how badly she had wanted to leave that night. "I left early. When Rob walked me to the car, he hugged me tight, too tight, and he didn't let go right away." She looked down, her voice softening. Then he whispered, "He's just going through a rough patch, Meg. We just have to love him through it. Love fixes everything." Her eyes glistened as she shook her head slowly. That was Rob's biggest mistake. He really believed that love could fix anything, that love was strong enough to protect his family from whatever was coming their way. But to someone like Nick, caught in a fragile and unstable state of mind, that love didn't feel like protection anymore. It became something else entirely, something he could twist in ways no one saw coming. Meg's story wasn't about one dramatic night. It was about a slow unraveling, a quiet breakdown that everyone around had tried to ignore. Over time, the cracks just got deeper. "In that last year," she continued, her tone heavy with emotion, "the phone calls from Rob started to change. They used to be full of life. He'd talk for hours about new projects, ideas, things that inspired him. But then they got fewer." She paused, swallowing hard as her voice trembled. And when he did call, he sounded different, hollow, empty. A tear slipped down her cheek as she struggled to keep her composure. Rob Reiner, the man who lived and breathed movies, stopped talking about them altogether. That's when I knew something was really wrong, Meg said, taking another shaky breath. They stopped talking about work, about movies, about anything that used to light him up. Instead, he started talking about safety. Her tone dropped, quiet but full of unease. He'd ask me these strange questions out of nowhere. Do you have a good security system, Meg? Or do you think people can really change? She paused, her eyes clouding over. It broke my heart because he sounded like someone who didn't feel safe in his own home. Rob and Michelle, she explained, had started making big moves behind the scenes, moving money, selling off properties quietly, trying to organize things as if they were bracing for something heavy. They were being careful, but it was more than just financial planning. It felt like preparation. She hesitated before continuing. Aaron Sorkin mentioned a little of it once, she said softly, but even he didn't realize how deep it went. Her expression tightened as she spoke again. I found out later that Rob and Michelle had been covering Nick's debts. Her voice was heavy with disbelief. And these weren't your average expenses. These were serious debts. They were trying so hard to clean up his mistakes, hoping it would finally give him a fresh start. Meg's gaze dropped toward the floor. They kept thinking that if they just helped him one more time, paid off one more thing, offered one more chance, maybe it would all finally calm down, she said, her voice soft but full of heartbreak. She took a deep breath, her fingers twisting together. Then came the day everything hit the news, she whispered. I was in New York, sitting in a taxi, and my phone started buzzing non-stop. Not ringing, just buzzing over and over again. My screen just kept lighting up over and over again, Meg said, taking a shaky breath. Then I saw a message from Billy Crystal, just 3 words. They're gone, Meg. She blinked slowly, remembering that moment of confusion. At first, I didn't understand. Gone where? Were they on a trip? Taking a break? Her voice trembled, and then I opened the link. Her throat tightened as she spoke. I saw the aerial footage of the Brentwood house, the flashing lights, the yellow tape, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. She pressed her hand against her chest, the memory visibly shaking her. It was like someone had taken the air right out of me. Her voice fell to a whisper, because deep down, in the darkest corner of my gut, I wasn't surprised. Tears welled up in her eyes as she forced the words out. That's the part I have to live with. I was heartbroken. I was completely shattered, but I wasn't shocked. She swallowed hard, her gaze distant. The truth is, I knew. I knew that the version of Nick I saw at that dinner table 5 years ago, the one with those cold, empty eyes, had finally taken over. She paused for a long moment, collecting herself as the studio stayed utterly still. A producer quietly reached across the set, offering her a tissue, but she shook her head. No, she said softly, this needs to stay real. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and looked straight into the camera, her expression steady and full of emotion. The media keeps calling it a sudden breakdown, she said firmly. They talk about stress, mental pressure, all the usual things. And sure, maybe some of that's true, but what no one wants to talk about is the control, the manipulation, the way love and guilt can twist into something that traps you. Her voice grew stronger, every word landing with weight. They weren't living some perfect Hollywood dream, she continued, her tone breaking slightly. They were stuck in a situation that no one could see from the outside. Rob and Michelle were trapped in their own home, living under emotional pressure so deep they didn't even realize how bad it had gotten. Their freedom, their peace, it was all slipping away, Meg said softly, her voice heavy with regret. She looked down for a moment before continuing. About 3 months ago, I tried to visit. I was in LA and something just told me to stop by. When I got there, the gates were shut tight. I pressed the buzzer and Michelle answered. But her voice, it didn't sound like her at all. It was flat, distant, almost like she was repeating something she'd been told to say. She said, "Meg, we love you, but today isn't a good day." Meg's eyes grew glassy as she recalled the moment. And right then, I heard noise in the background, raised voices, a crash, and it froze me. Her hand trembled as she spoke. I just drove away. I told myself I was respecting their space, that maybe they just needed time. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. Her voice cracked slightly, frustration and guilt spilling through every word. I should have done something. I should have called someone for help. I should have gone back and made sure they were okay, she said, her tone rising with emotion. But we live in this polite world that teaches us to mind our own business, to stay out of what looks private. And that silence, it cost everything. The air in the studio seemed to shift, the energy growing heavier as the interview took a darker turn. Meg hesitated, steadying herself before revealing what came next. 2 days before it all happened, she said quietly, Rob called me. It was 3 in the morning. Her eyes shimmered under the dim studio lights. He sounded calm, too calm, the kind of calm that doesn't feel peaceful. It feels final. Her voice softened to a whisper. He said, "Meg, I just wanted to hear your voice. I wanted to remember your laugh." Meg looked down, her expression breaking. I didn't realize what he meant at the time. I thought maybe he couldn't sleep. Maybe he was just lonely. Her voice dropped low, trembling slightly. I asked him what was wrong, she said softly, and he told me, "I think we made a mistake, honey. I think we loved too much and protected too little." The room fell completely still, every word hanging heavy in the air. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. Meg continued, her tone wavering. He told me that Nick had been asking for the deed to the house. He thought Rob was keeping money from him. She paused, swallowing hard as the memory caught up to her. "But then Rob said something that almost gave me hope," she whispered. He said, "I told him no for the first time tonight. I told him no." Meg's voice cracked as she tried to smile through the tears. I remember saying to him, "Good for you, Rob. You have to draw a line somewhere." I was proud of him that night. I thought maybe finally he was starting to take back his power. Her expression darkened as she looked straight ahead, her eyes sharp with anger and heartbreak. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know that drawing that line would be the thing that changed everything." Her hands clenched together tightly in her lap, the emotion pulsing through her words. "I keep hearing people talk about the case," she continued, her voice growing firm, "about legal defenses, about stress, about excuses for Nick." She paused, then leaned closer, her voice cutting through the silence. "Let me tell you something." Her tone turned hard, steady, and clear. "The Nick Reiner I saw that night, he knew exactly what he was doing," she said, her words sharp enough to slice through the air. "He wasn't lost in confusion or out of control. He knew how to push buttons, how to twist emotions, how to make everyone around him feel guilty. He knew that if he even hinted at being in danger or struggling, Rob would give in. He'd reach for his wallet. He'd try to fix it. He turned their love into a weapon. He took the best parts of them, their kindness, their compassion, and used it like leverage." His expression hardened, her voice growing cold and deliberate. "That's not confusion. That's not chaos." She paused, locking eyes with the interviewer. "That's calculation. That's cruelty," she said firmly. "It was a deliberate, cold manipulation of two parents who loved too deeply." Meg's breath caught as she began pacing across the small Persian rug in the middle of the room, her hands trembling slightly. The rain outside was pounding harder now, each drop tapping against the glass like a heartbeat, steady, angry, relentless. And when that love finally didn't give him what he wanted, she said, her voice shaking with fury, when the endless flow of forgiveness and support stopped, he turned on the very people who had built their lives around him. Her words were heavy, each one landing like a strike. She paused, her eyes glistening but her tone unbroken. Rob Reiner gave the world the Princess Bride, she continued, emotion trembling through her voice. He gave us As You Wish. He taught everyone that true love could conquer anything. She took a breath, her shoulders lifting before slowly falling again. And the painful twist, the heartbreaking irony, is that his own love for his son, that same endless forgiving love, is what pulled him straight into tragedy. Her voice softened, though it still carried strength. It wasn't a lack of love, she said, her tone low but steady. It was too much love. Love that refused to see danger until it was too late. Love that believed it could heal anything, even when the damage was already done. That was the end of their story, Meg said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes shimmered, reflecting the pain that still hadn't faded. It was too much love, love without limits, love that didn't know how to say no, love so blinding that it couldn't see the danger standing right in front of it. She turned back toward the camera, her face raw and unguarded, every trace of Hollywood polish gone. Her voice trembled, but every word hit with weight. I'm speaking now because I want justice, she said firmly. Not just the kind that comes from a courtroom, although I pray that real accountability is served, but justice for their story, their legacy. She blinked hard, holding back tears. I don't want Rob remembered as just another headline or another Hollywood tragedy. I want him remembered as a man who fought, a man who tried so hard to save his son that he lost himself in the process. Her tone sharpened as she leaned forward, her words cutting through the heavy silence. We've got to learn something from this, she said, passion building in her voice. We've stopped romanticizing this idea of the parent who gives everything, the one who sacrifices every part of themselves just to keep someone else afloat. Because when you give until there's nothing left, when your love turns into your weakness, everyone loses. She paused, her eyes glistening as her voice softened but didn't waver. If you ever find yourself in a situation where someone you love is hurting you, or you feel scared in your own home, love isn't enough. You have to choose safety. You have to choose survival. Her breath trembled as she whispered the next words. Rob and Michelle didn't choose survival, she said, shaking her head slowly. They chose love again and again until it was too late. And now, the world feels colder without them in it. For a moment, the studio went completely silent. Meg Ryan, the woman who once defined Hollywood romance, stood there looking utterly broken, stripped of every illusion. Her voice cracked one final time. They gave everything, she whispered. Her voice dropped to a fragile whisper. I miss him, she said, her words shaking as they left her lips. I miss my friend. I miss knowing he was out there somewhere, making people laugh, creating light, reminding the world that kindness still existed. Her breath caught and her eyes shimmered as she looked down. And I'll never forgive myself for driving away from that gate that day. Never. She paused, her shoulders trembling as unspoken tears welled in her eyes. But I promise you this, she continued, her tone steadying. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure people know what really happened, because they weren't just lost to tragedy, they were betrayed by the very love they thought would save them. Her tone deepened, filled with grief so heavy it barely fit into words. Betrayal, that's a different kind of loss, she said quietly. It doesn't fade, it stays with you. It's the kind of wound that never really heals. The room around her went completely still, the kind of silence that felt alive. The only sound was the soft hum of rain tapping against the studio windows, like even the sky was holding its breath. The cameras kept rolling, catching every quiet detail as Meg slowly sat back down, her her hands trembling slightly. Her gaze fell on the mug sitting in front of her. The coffee inside had gone cold, untouched, its steam long vanished. She stared at it for a moment, as if it somehow held the weight of everything she couldn't say. The confession hung in the air like a thick cloud, heavy, suffocating, impossible to escape. Meg had finally broken the silence, and yet the truth that spilled out seemed louder, sharper, more haunting than anyone could have prepared for. The truth about the Reiner family was finally out, and it hit like a storm. That quiet, creeping darkness that had slowly taken hold behind those closed gates was no longer a mystery. The illusion of Hollywood perfection had shattered, replaced by something far more human, far more painful. Through her trembling voice and bare honesty, Meg's words tore down the perfect picture everyone once believed in, showing just how dangerously thin the line can be between unconditional love and complete self-destruction. There was no perfect ending, no credits, no uplifting music, no cheerful outro. The footage just faded to black, lingering on Meg's tear-streaked face, and then silence. That silence said everything. Viewers sat frozen, left with one chilling realization. Sometimes the real danger isn't in the shadows. Sometimes it's sitting right across the dinner table, and everyone's too polite, too scared, or too loyal to call it out. The reaction was immediate and massive. The world didn't just respond to what Meg said, but how she said it. The calm, emotional way she peeled back the curtain on Hollywood's so-called golden family hit like a lightning bolt. The illusion of the Reiners, Hollywood's golden couple, the progressive icons, the storybook success everyone wanted to believe in, shattered overnight. For years, Rob and Michelle Reiner had been held up as proof that you could have both fame and family, that you could make it in Hollywood without losing yourself. But with every word Meg spoke, that picture-perfect story fell apart piece by piece until all that was left was the raw, painful truth underneath. Within hours, social media exploded. News outlets scrambled to keep up, timelines flooded with clips, screenshots, and shocked reactions. The story had shifted from a heartbreaking loss to a much deeper tale of manipulation, loyalty, and hidden pain. The whispers of Hollywood scandal turned into a roar of questions. People weren't gossiping anymore, they were demanding answers. But Meg didn't stop there. In the days that followed, she started sharing more, carefully, deliberately. She released bits of what she'd kept hidden for years, private notes, fragments of journal entries, and deeply personal messages that painted the full picture. She shared texts, emails, even handwritten letters between her and Michelle, letters that revealed the slow, quiet unraveling that had been happening behind the scenes long before anyone noticed. Each new piece made things clearer and more devastating. What once looked like a glamorous life built on love and success was really a story about fear, silence, and emotional exhaustion. And as the world scrolled through every screenshot and letter, the question hung in the air like smoke. How could something that seemed so perfect hide that much pain? One of the first major revelations came when Meg released an official statement through Vanity Fair, refusing to let gossip sites twist her words or sensationalize her truth. In that statement, she described a quiet weekend in the Hamptons 3 years earlier, a private celebration for Rob's 75th birthday. "We were out on the deck," she wrote. "The ocean was calm, the candles were lit, and yet there was this tension. You could feel it, like static in the air." That one line set everything off again. What should have been a simple birthday memory became another piece of the haunting puzzle, the moment the world realized that the cracks in the Reiner family's perfect image had started forming long before anyone noticed. The sun had been dipping low over the water that evening, painting the Hampton sky gold and pink. Rob stood quietly by the railing, staring out at the waves. Meg remembered it vividly, how he looked smaller somehow, older, like the ocean itself was slowly pulling pieces of him away. Then he turned to her, his eyes heavy with something deeper than exhaustion. "Meg," he asked softly, Do you think I failed him? Her heart broke there on that deck. He wasn't talking about his career, she said later, her voice trembling. He was talking about Nick. Rob had told her that night that Nick had accused him of caring more about his films than his own family, and that accusation had torn right through him. It wasn't anger she saw in Rob's eyes, it was pain. The kind of pain that eats at you because it comes from someone you'd give everything to protect. Nick twisted everything, Meg said, her voice low but steady. He made Rob feel like his own success was a sin that needed to be paid for by giving in again and again. The way she said it carried exhaustion, the kind that only comes from watching something fall apart in slow motion. Meg's tone softened as she began to talk about Michelle. Michelle Reiner, she said quietly. This brilliant, creative woman, so full of fire, had turned into a shadow of herself. Meg shook her head slowly, eyes glistening. She used to paint these incredible landscapes, soft, dreamlike scenes that made you feel calm just looking at them. But the last time I visited her studio, she paused, her throat tightening. Every single canvas was blank. Every one of them. Her voice trembled as she recalled Michelle's words. I can't focus anymore, Meg, she told me. I'm always waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for the next crisis, the next emergency, the next call that something's gone wrong. Meg sighed deeply, the sound heavy with sadness. They were living in constant tension. You could see it in their faces, their posture, even in their skin. It was like they were bracing for something to break every single day. The emotion in her voice began to shift, grief turning into frustration. And let's be honest, she said firmly, her tone sharpening. We all saw it. Everyone in their circle knew something was wrong. You could feel it at parties, at dinners, even on set. There was this energy around them, an unease that nobody wanted to name. She took a breath, her eyes dark with regret. I look back now, she whispered, and I see how obvious it all was. The signs were everywhere, right in front of us, and still we said nothing.
We told ourselves it wasn't our place, Meg said quietly, her tone filled with shame and clarity. We called it privacy, but really, it was avoidance. For the first time, her words didn't just uncover the pain inside the Reiner home. They exposed the silence that protected it. We all knew, she whispered. We just didn't want to admit it. Her next appearance wasn't on television. It was on a podcast. This time, her voice carried a new kind of strength, fueled by guilt that had turned into determination. The producers, the friends, the people who showed up at every holiday party, we all saw it, she said, her voice rising with conviction. We saw Nick's outbursts, his temper, the way he spoke to Rob and Michelle. That wasn't stress. That wasn't just frustration. It was control. She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. But Rob, he was always so protective, she said, her tone tightening. Anytime someone tried to bring it up, to suggest that maybe Nick needed space or real help, Rob would shut it down fast. He'd say, "You don't understand what he's going through." But this wasn't just struggle or dependency. This was a takeover of a family's peace. Her voice faltered a second, then came back stronger, burning with anger and sorrow. And we respected Rob's wishes, she admitted bitterly. We stayed quiet. We didn't want to overstep, didn't want to hurt his pride. So we stood back and watched while they sank deeper and deeper. We let them drown because none of us wanted to offend the captain of the sinking ship. The podcast host stayed completely silent, letting her words echo through the air. The only sound was the faint hum of the recording equipment, the kind of quiet that felt alive with tension. Meg's eyes glistened as she leaned closer to the microphone. "I've carried a memory for years," she said softly. "Something I tried to forget, but it won't leave me." Her voice trembled for just a second before steadying again. It was late, after one of Rob's rap parties. Everyone had left except a few of us. Nick walked up to Rob, smiling, But his eyes didn't match that smile. He said something under his breath, something cold, and Rob just froze. It was like watching a man shrink in real time. "There was this one night," Meg began softly, her tone careful, almost distant, as if she was peeling back a memory she didn't want to touch. "It was just me and Nick in the kitchen. Everyone else was outside. And he was calm, charming even." She paused, shaking her head slightly. "That's the thing. He could be charming, just like Rob." She swallowed hard before continuing. "He looked right at me and said, 'You know, Meg, my parents live in a fantasy world. They think everything has a happy ending, but real life isn't a movie.'" Her voice cracked slightly as she took a breath. "At the time, I brushed it off. I thought it was just attitude, him trying to sound deep, maybe a little bitter. But now, looking back, I see it for what it really was." Her gaze dropped to the floor, her voice quiet but steady. "It wasn't just cynicism. It was a warning. He was telling me, without saying it outright, that he was going to be the one to break their illusion." The studio went still. "He was the plot twist they never saw coming," she whispered. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. The weight of her words filled the room, the kind of heavy quiet that made everyone hold their breath. You could practically feel the realizations sinking in. The signs had been there all along, hidden behind charm, denial, and the desperate hope that love could fix anything. And now, with the trial date set for January 7th, Meg's words weren't just echoing in podcasts or interviews, they were echoing in courtrooms and headlines too. Her testimony, both public and legal, was becoming one of the most powerful forces in Hollywood, forcing people to look at what had really been happening behind those perfect smiles. When a reporter asked if she was afraid, if speaking this openly scared her, Meg didn't hesitate. Her answer came sharp, steady, and full of fire. "He took the people I loved," she said, her voice unwavering. "He has nothing left to take from me." The room stayed silent, but her words cut through it like glass. You could feel the shift, the moment when grief turned into defiance, when heartbreak became purpose. That single line sent chills through the air. It wasn't anger, it was final. The fear that had once lingered in Meg's voice was gone. What replaced it was strength. She had turned all that pain into purpose. In the months that followed, Meg began building something powerful, a foundation in Rob and Michelle Reiner's name, focused on helping older parents who face manipulation or mistreatment from their adult children. "It's a silent epidemic," she said in one interview. And Rob, without even realizing it, became the face of it. He loved so fiercely that he couldn't see the danger closing in around him. Then came her most haunting revelation yet. "I went to the house yesterday," she told a reporter softly, her tone hollow, as if the words themselves were hard to say. "The police tape is gone, but the house feels dead." She paused, struggling to find the right words. "That home used to be alive," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "It was always filled with music, the smell of garlic and tomatoes simmering in the kitchen, and laughter echoing from every corner." She blinked fast, holding back tears. Her eyes shimmered as she went on. "I walked into Rob's study," she whispered, her voice hollow, as if the words themselves were hard to say. His glasses were still there, sitting on the desk. The script he'd been reading was open to page 42, as if he'd stepped out for a moment and was about to come back. She took a shaky breath, her hands clasping together tightly. "I sat down in his chair," she said softly, turning almost tender, "and I made him a promise. I told him that his story and Michelle's wouldn't end with what happened to them. It wouldn't be defined by tragedy or silence." Her eyes lifted slightly, glowing under the soft lights. "It would end with the truth," she said firmly. the raw, uncomfortable truth that too many people are still afraid to face. He had always been too gentle to say it out loud, but Meg said it for him. That promise she made in his study became the heartbeat of her new mission.
The impact of Meg Ryan breaking her silence wasn't about drama or sensational headlines. It was about truth. Her story stripped away the glossy layers of celebrity and revealed the heartbreak that had always been hiding underneath. The flashing lights dimmed, the tabloid theories faded, and what remained was something far more real: a family quietly falling apart from the inside. This wasn't just another Hollywood tragedy. It was something deeply human, painfully familiar. It made people pause and look inward, to think about their own families, their own hidden struggles, and the unspoken pain that lives behind polite smiles. Meg's confession turned the story of Rob and Michelle Reiner into something bigger than celebrity gossip. It became a mirror, reflecting how love, loyalty, and silence can collide in dangerous ways. It wasn't about scandal anymore. It was about the quiet damage that hides behind success, behind good intentions, behind closed doors. It was about the cost of loving someone so deeply that you forget to protect yourself. By the time the interviews ended, something had shifted. The woman who once defined on-screen romance had transformed right before the world's eyes. Meg Ryan, the eternal girl next door, the symbol of Hollywood love stories, was no longer speaking lines from a script. She was speaking from scars. And in doing so, she made the world around her grow up too, forcing everyone to confront a truth most people try to ignore: that darkness doesn't just live in sad endings or movie plots. Sometimes it hides in the people we love most, in the spaces we think are safe, and no amount of movie magic can edit that out. In the weeks following her foundation's announcement, the story refused to fade. Every major outlet wanted a piece of her, every talk show, every magazine, every news platform. But Meg wasn't chasing fame this time. She was chasing change. Her voice had become something more than nostalgic, something urgent, something necessary. And even as the headlines shifted and Hollywood tried to move on, her words kept echoing, reminding everyone watching that real love isn't about perfection, it's about survival, honesty, and knowing when to finally speak the truth. Morning shows, late-night interviews, magazine covers, Meg Ryan was everywhere. But this time, it wasn't about fame. It was about purpose. She appeared calm, composed, her voice steady and deliberate. But behind those clear blue eyes, you could still see the ache that never quite faded. "This isn't about Hollywood anymore," she told one talk show host firmly. "It's about how silence protects the wrong people." That single line hit home for millions. Donations started flooding in from across the country. Messages, letters, and voicemails poured into her team, each one sharing stories that sounded painfully familiar. Older parents manipulated by their adult children, families torn apart by guilt and emotional pressure, people too afraid to speak up because love made them believe they had to stay quiet. Meg read every single one. "Every story feels like déjà vu," she admitted softly. "It's like reading echoes of what Rob and Michelle went through." The foundation, now officially known as the Reiner Project, quickly grew beyond a charity. It became a movement. Meg partnered with lawyers, therapists, and advocates to push for stronger laws protecting vulnerable parents from emotional and financial abuse. "We need to start calling this what it really is," Meg declared during a powerful press conference. "This isn't just family conflict or personal business. Abuse is abuse,
no matter who's holding the checkbook. The crowd erupted in applause, reporters shouting questions as camera flashes filled the room. But even amid that moment of triumph, you could still sense the exhaustion behind her strength. Every appearance, every interview seemed to drain her just a little more, as if she was using her grief as fuel, burning through it to keep going. And yet she kept standing tall, her mission clear. She wasn't just telling a story anymore. She was fighting for change. As the conference ended, Meg turned toward the cameras one last time, her voice softer now, but still full of purpose. "If you're watching this," she said, "and if you've ever felt trapped, silenced, or afraid to speak your truth, please don't stay quiet. Reach out. Tell someone. You deserve to be safe." Then she gave a small, sad smile and added, "And if you believe stories like this matter, if you believe in turning pain into power, don't forget to share this video, hit that like button, and help keep the conversation alive. The more people who know, the fewer who suffer in silence." The crowd applauded again as the lights dimmed. Meg stepped away from the podium, shoulders heavy but head high, because this time she wasn't acting, she was healing and helping the world heal with her.